Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Harlem-based jazz saxophonist Sam Taylor. He talked at length about his new 2022 CD, Let Go. His true jazz education began during his 3 years at Philadelphia's High School for the Creative and Performing Arts. He was immersed in the deep tradition of Philadelphia's jazz community. Sam left at the age of 17 for New York City, and the adventure has been going strong ever since. We get into all of this and more. Enjoy the interview.
Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, hey, thank you for taking a minute out today. I really dig Let Go, and I'm looking forward to getting into that more about your life in jazz.
Oh, appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, you bet. So before we get into Let Go, we've gone through quite a deal, artists, jazz musicians everywhere with COVID the last couple of years with the lockdown. And I'm curious how you survived that time period and, how it changed the way that you approach your craft now, especially with a new year, a new album. Kind of all of that together.
I think probably everybody's answer is like similar and incredibly personal as well. I mean, it was such a wild thing for everybody to go through, and so traumatic in so many ways. And so I think that the biggest thing for me during the pandemic and like living in New York and being here in Harlem for the duration was trying to stay connected, and that's like trying to stay connected to, my spirit and my body and take care of those things the best I could, and then also try and stay connected to, family and loved ones and the music community, here in New York and more broadly, and that was. It was such a challenge because, like music and being a musician and living a life of music, particularly in a city of like billions of people. I mean, it's just like connection is inevitable, in daily life. And so to have that all sort of just stripped down to, computers and phone calls, was really jarring. But, I think, the amazing thing is, music is it has such power, in that way. And so, it's really, I think it's a testament to the strength of the music, how like kind of bonded, the community is here and people looking out for each other. And then like, the more entrepreneurial like spirit of folks and doing things online and creating and making space for the music there and for people to enjoy, and then, also like support ourselves that way. So it was a mixed bag, and then as things sort of, like I picked up distance running, and I, found myself doing quite a bit of that and finding connection there to music in different ways that sort of continued to surprise me. But I mean, it was it's funny. I mean, it feels like it was so long ago, but then it's also been we're still obviously still feeling the implications of it all. We're not quite out of it. So but I feel incredibly fortunate, and like you said, like it sort of gave me time to think and work on music and where I wanted to go, and ultimately led me to the studio to create my record my new record, for which I'm incredibly excited about.
And I guess that's the lead-in right there. The beauty of coming out of this to a certain degree and kind of seeing things open up a little bit is having new music and the opportunity to present it live. So talk to me overall about what it feels like to release this album and how you feel about it artistically.
It's funny, like these, making a record, and it's like a moment, generally just a kind of a moment in time and a document of where you are and who you are, as a musician and hopefully as a person. And, it's, I've had a lot of changes in my life over the pandemic and personally and, with family and things. And I continue to be amazed that I get to live this live this life, and get to be a musician and get to travel and play music for folks. It really feels like quite a privilege. And then to be able to go into the studio with a childhood hero of mine, Terrell Stafford, the great trumpet player down in Philadelphia, where I grew up. That was really the goal. That's kind of like was the goal of my last record along the way, which I made with the great tenor saxophonist Larry McKenna, and then the one before that, with the great drummer here, Taro Akamoto. It's just like my way in. It feels like is trying to make music with people that are older than me, and wiser than me musically and otherwise. And Terrell certainly, fits that bill, and to be able to do it at Van Gelder Studios, which was the first time I was there, was really something. And so, yeah, I mean, it makes me feel like I'm on the right, going the right direction if I can convince these older guys to pay attention to me and want to make music, and they're so generous, and it does nothing but lift me up. So that was really how the main goal of Let Go was, to be able to invite these older master musicians, into a space, where we're all sort of coming out of the pandemic, like in the strictest sense, and to be able to come together and make music. That was really the goal.
So you're originally from Philadelphia. Talk to me a little bit about growing up and how these seeds of jazz became who you are today.
Yeah, I mean, Philly's a great town for music in general, and it has, as you mentioned, like such a heavy tradition of of jazz and masterful musicians coming out of there. So there was a lot of that energy growing up. There's a lot of incredible musicians down there. I was fortunate to go to the arts high school. That just afforded me a lot of opportunities I think maybe I wouldn't have had otherwise, and just again, like meeting older musicians and being able to be around older musicians. And there's one instance in particular that I can remember, which is connected to the record, is that we would have these sort of like high school, I don't know, I guess like workshops, like a bunch of high schools would go and like to Temple University. And I remember, it's funny, is I call it like an impact memory, and I don't like have all the details quite like connected, but I remember how it felt, I don't know if that makes sense. But, we were there, and I remember Terrell Stafford on stage, talking about jazz and talking about the importance of rhythm, and how that was really the cornerstone, of the music was rhythm and the triplet and swing, and it was really an emotionally impactful moment for me, and in like my journey of music, and so to be able to all these years later be in the studio, and then we did a nice tour on the Pacific Northwest and Western Canada towards the end of last year in celebration of the record. So it's quite something to be able to go from a kid in high school growing up in Philly to being on the road with the same guy who helped inspire me to live this life. It's really it was something. So Philly is great for that, because there's just so much history. There's so many masterful musicians down there who are so generous, like Terrell and Chris Farr and Larry McKenna, and there's just that's kind of the beautiful thing about living down there.
So what was the very first live show that you caught that made you feel like you wanted to do that someday?
Well, I can remember two. I mean, my mom, our everybody's ultimate teacher, their mothers, she, when I showed a real interest in the saxophone and music, she did a little research, and she read, and it must have been the Inquirer, the Philly Inquirer, she did a little research, and she read about, it was Joshua Redman, the saxophonist. So she went and she bought me a Joshua Redman record, a CD, and a Sonny Rollins CD, Saxophone Colossus. I don't remember which Joshua Redman one it was, but I was instantly taken with Sonny. So I remember seeing him for the first time live at the Keswick Theater, which is outside of Philadelphia. You know, ever since hearing Sonny Rollins, that's really been, you know, he was really the first, I don't know, it's like the Rosetta Stone or something, you know, that was the spark, you know, and then being able to see him do that on stage, you know, and not having any idea what was going on, really, you know, at such a young age, just, you know, how it made me feel. And, you know, I still have that sense, you know, when I listen to Sonny, it's like the classic recordings I never get tired of them. They're like daily listening for me. So that was one of the first. And then I also remember there's a club called Chris's in Philly. And I remember my mom taking me to hear Bobby Watson, the alto saxophonist, with a great drummer named Byron Landon. And I want to say it was Jimmy Bruno on guitar. And so that's another kind of first memory of seeing people. And that was a little bit more intimate, right? I mean, that was at a club as opposed to the Sonny concert was a concert. So this is like at a proper jazz club, you know. And so that one's still kind of, you know, fresh in my memory as like the first.
You know, you mentioned Terrell. There's been a lot of other people that have been veterans, very esteemed, almost legendary players. What have you learned from them being around them that, you know, maybe you take and you impart on younger players, or what's helped you from watching them in your career?
I think, you know, and I say it in the liner notes to Let Go, is that music really is an act of giving. And I've never believed that more, you know, than now, you know, like with the pandemic, and then, you know, having it sort of like taken away in a sense, you know, that being able to, you know, the purpose of music is to give, you know, it's like we're inspiring people, you know, we're like giving them joy and hope, and hopefully inspiring them to create their own joy, you know, their own beauty. You know, I'm trying to give voice to an experience, to give voice to, you know, the current experience that we're feeling, you know, as individuals and collectively as a you know, as a society, as a whole, you know, of humanity, trying to give voice to, you know, the people, the women and men, these great heroes that you're talking about, these like master musicians who really, you know, lived and gave their lives for the music, you know, and trying to honor them the best way we can. And it's never explicitly talked about, you know, with Terrell or Larry or anybody. But it's just the way in which they behave, you know, around, on the bandstand, you know, like being able to share the bandstand with them. And when it's time to play, it's time to play. I mean, it's like a very joyful, but very serious joy. You know, it's like there's like there's a no messing around sense, you know, there's a no nonsense, you know, and then off the bandstand, you know, watching Terrell, you know, and his generosity towards musicians like near and far, like when we're on the road out in Western Canada, and just how much he really takes that seriously, you know, in that he's, you know, trying to you know, connect, you know, with people, with his music, and with you know, with his, you know, his charisma and his, you know, his knowledge, and so I think that's really it. I think the biggest thing that I continue to learn from these older musicians is just that music really is really an act of giving. So
you've been at this for a little while. I'm curious, what is it that you like the best about being a professional musician? What drives you every day to do what you do?
It's like so funny. Like, that's the other thing. I keep saying that I can't believe it's my life even after all this time doing it, but it's really, it's not a job, you know, like I get to do what I love every day, you know, and like not every gig is great, and some gigs you play because they're, you know, you need to make money, and that's just a reality of being a musician too, you know, it's not easy, you know, just being able to like have an outlet, have like a place to express myself and put the joy and put the struggle, and like on a daily basis I have somewhere, to put it. I don't have to hold it in or yeah. I mean, I think it's crazy in this world that we live in, and everything that's going on, that I get to play tenor saxophone and live in this amazing city of New York, and travel and play with the best musicians in the world, and make people feel something. It's really something. It's really something.
Let's dig a little bit more into the essence of you, and I'm curious, everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, the listeners, but ultimately you live your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, wow, what a question. Jeez, who do I think I am? That's quite a question. Trying to, who do I think I am? I mean, I think I'm doing my best to, like enter into the day and like approach life with grace, and all that means, grace towards others and grace towards myself, and, people that I love, and, strangers alike, just trying to embody that and put that in my music, and like live an open-hearted life, and cherish what I have, and acknowledge what I have and the privilege that I have, and try and put that in the right place, and maybe also try not to take things too seriously, because there's so much to be. There's so much seriousness, so try and also, be light and joyful, and, take advantage of the time and what I get to do here, and the people that I get to know and love. I think I'm not sure if that's who I am, but that's who I'm trying to be anyway, I guess.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. So, Sam, if anyone out there wants to get their hands on Let Go, find out more about any shows that are coming up for you, anything revolving around your world, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, two places. I try and keep samtaylormusic.com updated, and I also am trying to be a bit more active. And I generally post most of my gigs, big and small, on Instagram, which is at Sam Taylor NYC. That's probably the best place if people want to find me and stay in touch.
Wonderful, Sam. Hey, thank you for taking a minute out to talk to me about your life and music, the new album. Good luck with everything, and have a great 2023.
Oh, same to you. Thanks so much, Joe. Take care.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York City, Philadelphia, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Sam for his time, cool, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on either iTunes or Spotify. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.